Hello, and welcome to the TxDOT San Antonio District pre-recorded virtual public hearing video presentation for the US 90 Reconstruction and Expansion Project from State Highway 211 to State Loop 13. We appreciate your interest in the US 90 project and welcome each of you to provide comments about the project. The process of submitting comments will be explained later in the presentation. Given the unique circumstance of the COVID-19 outbreak, along with our commitment to protecting public health during this national emergency, TxDOT is conducting this virtual public hearing to limit in-person contact and large gatherings. At this time, the online format will be used in lieu of an in-person public hearing. An in-person option was offered by appointment only per public request with strict protocols to ensure public safety. This presentation covers the same information that the San Antonio District would have presented at an in-person public hearing. The comment process for the virtual public hearing will be described near the end of this presentation. All hearing materials can be found on the TxDOT website on the US 90 hearing notice page. Information can be found at www.txdot.gov, keyword search US 90 from SH211. This virtual public hearing is also available in Spanish, and the videos include closed captioning on the TxDOT meeting notice webpage. If you need the presentation translated into any other language or Americans with Disabilities formats, please contact Patricia Kelly at patricia@nancyledbetter.com. This is Matt Werner, the Consultant Project Manager for the US 90 project, and I will be narrating this presentation. Clayton Rips is the Director of Transportation Planning and Development at TxDOT San Antonio District. He is the Public Hearing Officer for tonight's virtual public hearing. The virtual public hearing presentation will cover the project overview, the purpose and need for the project design, project funding and schedule, the environmental overview and findings, and information on the public comment process will also be discussed. The proposed project would be funded by the Federal Highway Administration and is a major federal action subject to the National Environmental Policy Act. TxDOT prepared a draft environmental assessment, commonly referred to as an EA, to evaluate the social, economic, and environmental impacts of the proposed project and to determine whether such impacts warrant preparation of an environmental impact statement. The environmental review, consultation, and other actions required by applicable federal environmental laws for this project are being or have been carried out by TxDOT pursuant to 23 United States Code 327 and a Memorandum of Understanding dated December 9, 2019, and executed by the Federal Highway Administration and TxDOT. The EA is available for public review, and TxDOT will consider any comments submitted. Once the comment period is over, TxDOT will prepare a final EA. If TxDOT determines there would be significant adverse impacts on the quality of the human environment, an environmental impact statement would be prepared. Otherwise, TxDOT will prepare and sign a finding of no significant impact. TxDOT is proposing reconstruction and expansion of approximately 11.5 miles of existing US Highway 90 from State Highway 211 to Loop 13, also known as West Military Drive. The proposed project is located in western Bexar County and the city of San Antonio. The proposed project and the project limits are shown in navy blue. The proposed project would expand the existing roadway from a 4-lane divided roadway with intermittent frontage roads to a 6-lane expressway with one-way continuous frontage roads in each direction. The proposed project includes the addition of direct connectors at Loop 1604, as well as improvements to State Highway 211, Montgomery Road, Hunt Lane, and Loop 13 intersections. The proposed project extends west of State Highway 211 and east of Loop 13 to allow for transitions. The proposed US 90 improvements are needed to accommodate the projected increase in traffic along US 90. The existing capacity is inadequate to meet current and future traffic volumes, resulting in congestion, reduced mobility, and longer delays. The purpose of the proposed project is to accommodate existing and future traffic volumes and improve mobility and connectivity along US 90 between State Highway 211 and Loop 13. US 90 is the main east-west corridor in western San Antonio. Western Bexar County and the US 90 corridor have experienced recent growth, which has caused traffic volumes to increase over the past few years. In 2019, the existing traffic volumes along US 90 varied between approximately 60,000 and 70,000 vehicles per day. It is forecasted that the corridor will continue to develop and the traffic volumes will increase by 120%, with volumes reaching approximately 150,000 vehicles by the year 2045. The proposed improvements would improve travel times to near or better than current conditions. In the year 2019, peak hour travel times between I-410 and SH-211 ranged from 7 to 20 minutes. If the project is not built by the year 2025, travel times along US 90 are anticipated to increase. The maximum increase in travel times is estimated to be approximately 43 minutes under the no-build scenario. If the project is constructed, travel times are anticipated to decrease to approximately 6 minutes during the morning and evening peak hours in 2025. If the project is not built by the year 2045, the corridor would result in a gridlock along US 90 corridor. Travel times are expected to increase up to approximately 70 minutes. In the year 2045, with the proposed improvements, travel times are anticipated to decrease to approximately 6 to 8 minutes during morning and evening peak hours. The TxDOT San Antonio District is proposing reconstruction and expansion of approximately 11.5 miles of existing US 90 from State Highway 211 to Loop 13. The proposed improvements would begin approximately 2.2 miles west of the State Highway 211 intersection and end approximately 0.7 miles east of the Loop 13 intersection. The proposed project would expand the existing roadway from a 4-lane divided roadway with intermittent frontage roads to a 6-lane expressway with one-way continuous frontage roads in each direction. The proposed project includes the addition of direct connectors at Loop 1604, as well as improvements to State Highway 211, Montgomery Road, Hunt Lane, and Loop 13 intersections. The existing right-of-way varies from approximately 270 to 335 feet in width. The project would require approximately 79 acres of additional right-of-way, and the proposed right-of-way would vary from approximately 300 feet to 590 feet in width. The proposed improvements include adding one additional main lane in each direction, a fully directional interchange at US 90 and Loop 1604, continuous frontage roads and sidewalks along the project, the construction of new ramps to facilitate better access to adjoining properties, and bicycle accommodations along both frontage roads. The proposed improvements would require right-of-way acquisitions at various locations throughout the project, with the majority of the acquisitions being located west of Loop 1604. The existing typical section along US 90 west of Loop 1604 generally has 2 main lanes in each direction, an open median separating the east and westbound travel lanes, and no frontage roads except at intersecting roadways. The existing right-of-way width varies, but has a usual width of 270 feet. The proposed typical section west of Loop 1604 would generally have 3 main lanes and 2 frontage road lanes with auxiliary lanes in each direction with continuous sidewalks along the frontage roads. The proposed minimum typical section west of Loop 1604 would be 3 main lanes and 2 frontage road lanes in each direction. The proposed right-of-way width varies, but would have a usual width of 425 feet, which would require right-of-way acquisitions along both sides of US 90 along the majority of the area west of Loop 1604. The existing typical section along US 90 between Loop 1604 and I-410 usually has two main lanes with auxiliary lanes in each direction and an open median between the main lanes and two frontage road lanes in each direction. The proposed typical section between Loop 1604 and I-410 would include three main lanes in each direction with two auxiliary lanes, two westbound frontage road lanes with an auxiliary lane, and two eastbound frontage road lanes with continuous sidewalks along the westbound frontage road. The additional lanes in this area would be to accommodate the movements between the proposed Loop 1604 and I-410 direct connector interchanges. Minimal right-of-way acquisitions would be required between Loop 1604 and I-410. The existing typical section along US 90 east of I-410 usually has a minimum of three main lanes, with a closed median between the main lanes, and two frontage road lanes in the eastbound direction, and two frontage road lanes and an auxiliary lane in the westbound direction. The proposed typical section east of I-410 would include three main lanes with an auxiliary lane and two frontage road lanes with an auxiliary lane in each direction, with continuous sidewalks along the frontage roads. The additional auxiliary lanes in this area would be to accommodate the movements to and from the I-410 direct connector interchange. Minimal right-of-way acquisitions would be required along the eastbound frontage road to accommodate widenings and utility relocations. The proposed improvements at US 90 and Loop 1604 would include a 5-level interchange. Level 1 would include the US 90 main lanes. Level 2 would include the US 90 and Loop 1604 frontage road box with signalized intersections. Level 3 would include the Loop 1604 main lanes. Levels 4 and 5 would include the 8 direct connectors or flyover ramps for all direction movements to provide higher speed connections between US 90 and Loop 1604. One direct connector has already been constructed with a previous project connecting southbound Loop 1604 to eastbound US 90. The proposed project would be funded with federal and state dollars for a total of approximately $213 million. This would fund the frontage roads on US 90 from State Highway 211 to Loop 1604, the main lane capacity improvements from Montgomery Road to I-410, the westbound US 90 to northbound Loop 1604 direct connector, and the State Highway 211 intersection improvements. The project would be constructed in phases as funding becomes available. The existing action is consistent with the Alamo Area Metropolitan Planning Organization's funded projects included in the 2045 Metropolitan Transportation Plan and the fiscal year 2019 to 2022 Transportation Improvement Plan. After the virtual public hearing and all comments are received and addressed, the schematic will be finalized and sent for final environmental approval. Once environmental approval is received, TxDOT would begin purchasing right-of-way and utility companies would begin relocating to provide room for the proposed improvements. TxDOT has identified two projects which would begin over the next few years to alleviate congestion along the US 90 corridor. The first project, westbound to eastbound turnaround at Montgomery Road overpass, is already under design and would begin construction next fall. The second project would construct frontage roads from State Highway 211 to Loop 1604 and provide additional lanes on the main lanes to accommodate the anticipated increase in traffic. The TxDOT San Antonio District conducted environmental studies for the proposed project in compliance with the National Environmental Policy Act. Environmental studies evaluated potential impacts of the proposed project on social and environmental resources, including air quality, traffic noise, hazardous materials, historic and archaeological resources, land use and parklands, social and community impacts, biological resources, including threatened and endangered species, water resources, and indirect and cumulative impacts. The results of these analyses are summarized on the next few slides. The draft environmental assessment is available for download and review on the TxDOT website. A traffic noise analysis was completed, and the preliminary results determined the project would result in noise impacts. Noise walls were found to be reasonable and feasible for the Canyon Crossing neighborhood, the Amber Creek neighborhood, and the Camino Creek Mobile Home Park. Any subsequent design changes may require a reevaluation of these preliminary noise walls. The final decision to conduct the proposed noise walls will not be made until completion of the project design, utility evaluation, and polling of property owners located adjacent to the proposed noise walls. No adverse impacts to air quality are anticipated. A hazardous materials initial site assessment was conducted and concluded additional research would be needed for 36 sites. TxDOT conducted a historic resources survey to evaluate historic resource impacts. Initial reporting indicated no historic resource impacts are anticipated. Coordination under Section 106 on the National Historic Preservation Act is still pending. No impacts to archaeological resources are anticipated. No adverse impacts to parklands are anticipated. A community impacts assessment was conducted and concluded the project would potentially displace one residence, one residential outbuilding, and one commercial outbuilding. No adverse impacts to access or community cohesion are anticipated. Impacts to environmental justice populations are not expected to be disproportionately high or adverse. The proposed improvements are anticipated to benefit the entire community. Impacts to biological resources were evaluated and determined the project area does not contain suitable habitat for federally listed, threatened, or endangered species, but does contain habitat for 5 state-listed threatened species. These include the Texas horned lizard, the Texas tortoise, the Mexican tree frog, and 2 freshwater mussel species, the Texas fat mucket and the Texas pimpleback. Best management practice will be implemented to minimize potential impacts where possible. The project has been coordinated with the Texas Parks and Wildlife Department. Impacts to water resources were evaluated and determined that 5 jurisdictional water bodies or wetland features would be impacted by the proposed project. Impacts to these water bodies would be authorized under an assumed Nationwide Permit 14 or a Nationwide Permit 14 with a pre-construction notification. Impacts to one wetland may require authorization under an individual permit. Neither a pre-construction notice nor an individual permit application have been submitted to the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. A pre-application meeting is planned prior to their submittal. An indirect and cumulative impacts analysis was conducted and found that indirect or cumulative impacts are not anticipated. Approximately 79 acres of additional right-of-way would be required for the project from 62 parcels with a minimal number of displacements. The state, acting through TxDOT, will be appointing an authorized agent who will be responsible for the acquisition of necessary right-of-way and for all relocation services. Acquisitions will be made in accordance with federal and state statutes and guidelines. The primary federal law which sets the guidelines for right-of-way acquisitions and relocation assistance is found in the Uniform Relocation Assistance and Real Property Acquisition Policies Act of 1970, commonly referred to as the Uniform Act. Independent fee appraisers will be contracted to appraise all necessary property. Affected property owners will receive written notification of the pending appraisal inspection. Appraisers will request permission to enter a property for inspection and offer the property owner or their representative the right to accompany them on the inspection. The appraiser will be asked to determine the value of the land to be acquired, real property improvements within the area to be acquired, and damages, if any, to the remaining property. The written appraisal will be provided to the landowner at the time the offer is made. Once environmental clearance has been obtained and the project has been fully authorized, TxDOT's acquiring agent will commence the acquisition process. This agent will send each property owner an offer letter along with a copy of the appraisal. That letter, together with the appraisal, will advise each affected owner as to the value of the land to be acquired, the value of any improvements within the acquisition area, and damages, if any, to the remaining property. Each property owner can choose to accept the offer based on the appraisal or make a counteroffer based upon additional information that may affect the value of the land under consideration. If no agreement can be reached, the state will obtain authorization to proceed with eminent domain proceedings. The initial stage of an eminent domain proceeding is what is known as a special commissioner's hearing. In the special commissioner's hearing, a judge with jurisdiction over such proceedings will appoint 3 special commissioners to hear the evidence of both the landowner and TxDOT. A property owner may hire an attorney to represent them in this proceeding or appear on their own behalf. Based upon the testimony given, the special commissioners issue an award, which would be their determination of value. Once the state has deposited the amount of this award in the registry of the court, it will have a right of possession to the property. Either the landowner or the state can appeal the award of special commissioners, and a court proceeding will then be scheduled to resolve the issue of value. In all cases, the property owner will be reimbursed for any reasonable incidental expenses necessarily incurred in transferring title to the acquired property to the state. Expenses eligible for reimbursement generally include recording fees and similar required expenses to convey the real property, along with any penalties that are required for prepayment of any pre-existing recorded mortgage entered into in good faith encumbering the property. The state of Texas is required to assist persons being displaced from their homes and businesses because of highway projects. TxDOT has available relocation assistance booklets which provide a general overview of the relocation assistance program. These booklets outline the services offered and any payments for which displaced individuals, families, businesses, and nonprofit organizations may be eligible to receive. For a basic review of your rights and TxDOT's obligations, please see the State Purchase of Right-of-Way brochure as well as the Relocation Assistance booklet on the TxDOT and Project Meeting page websites. If you have any questions, please also feel free to contact Patricia Kelly at patricia@nancyledbetter.com or call 512-659-3230. Public involvement has occurred throughout the development of the project. In January and February of 2018, TxDOT met with potentially affected property owners to discuss the preliminary project design, receive input on any issues or concerns, and discuss the right-of-way and right-of-entry process. TxDOT held an open house on December 4th, 2018 in the Creewald Elementary School cafeteria. The open house was held to inform the public of the proposed improvements to US 90 and to gather input from the public. A total of 146 people attended the meeting and 23 comments were received during the public comment period. TxDOT held another round of meetings with affected property owners in June through August 2020 to present the final design, the right-of-way acquisition process, and the property owner concerns. The purpose of this virtual public hearing is to present TxDOT's recommended design for the US 90 reconstruction and expansion project and gather input. Hearings are more formal and occur near the end of the environmental and engineering process. All virtual public hearing materials can be found on the US 90 meeting notice webpage located at www.texdot.gov, keyword search US 90 from SH211. These materials include this recording, the script for this presentation in English and Spanish, the proposed schematic design, the environmental assessment, and a comment card in English and Spanish. TxDOT is committed to continuing its effort to gather public feedback for this project. We understand this virtual public hearing comment format is a bit different, so let's take a few minutes and explain the process. The TxDOT San Antonio District is asking the public to provide their comments in the following ways. To make a verbal comment, call 210-360-1184 and leave a voice message when prompted. Please limit your voicemail to a maximum of 3 minutes. This option will be available starting October 15 and will continue until October 30, 2020. Your verbal comments will be recorded and included in the documentation of Virtual Public Hearing Summary Report. Email your comments to us90project@blantonassociates.com. Download the comment form and mail your comments to Blanton & Associates, Inc., Attention US 90 Project, 5 Lakeway Center Court, Suite 200, Austin, Texas, 78734. Submit comments online by going to www.TxDOT.gov and entering US 90 from SH211 in the Search TxDOT box in the upper right-hand corner of the web page. Select the Virtual Public Hearing web page, then click on the online comment form under Downloads at the bottom of the page. All comments must be received or postmarked by October 30, 2020. You may also submit a combination of both verbal and written comments. Please contact our project manager, Richard De La Cruz, to ask questions at any time during the project development process. Richard's email is richard.delacruz@TxDOT.gov and his phone number is 210-615-6434. As previously mentioned, project information including the draft environmental assessment, virtual public hearing presentation slides, and maps or drawings showing the proposed project design are currently on the project website at TxDOT.gov. Keyword search US 90 from SH211. Following this hearing, the district will consider each comment received during the preparation of the final environmental assessment for this project. Responses to your comments will be included in the documentation of Virtual Public Hearing Summary Report. Thank you for participating in this virtual public hearing, and please remember to submit your comments by October 30, 2020.